I don't know if you understood anything I said, but I was trying to keep quiet because in a library you're supposed to keep quiet, even though if the librarians are talking, they have a valence of acceptance among their own rules for themselves. One thing I was trying to iterate was stingray, or my hat's gonna fly off because the wind is strong and my hair is frail. Even if you wash your hair like really well, if it's long, it's gonna have like a certain dryness to it, and then that can happen with your hat because it's not abrasive on the surface. What stingray would be is ostensibly, I was just talking to a detective and he didn't even know. So it's just like mostly FBI would be using this, and it's like when you want to find someone, you have their IP address of their phone device. So you dial it into a stingray. A stingray is a computer program, and then it just bounces off towers of the entire grid of the United States, because they, being the FBI, have the ability to touch any tower in the United States. Dial in an IP address, and that phone will come up with a moving dot of the phone. If the person has a phone, well, now they're under the stingray. This is a chronicle of different mobiles, specifically of the ones that are to protect and serve. Their ability to protect and serve was limited when there's just wagons, so without the motor, they probably had to take measures at more drastic rates. So in here, the criminals were getting away with more because they couldn't get to the scene as quick as they could in later days. Now they're gaining traction. Look at that squad. That should be at midnight. Should be a midnight ride every day, every night. I was at the park a few weeks ago, and they're doing the same thing. But they had a helicopter come in, and they actually had artillery on a table. It's a prominent figure. So even when they do have the modern mobiles, they still can't do the job properly. So they do stuff through binary to gain advance. One operation is called Stingray. So what just ensued took place affecting like 4 lives directly, but it took like 8 people to get involved, and the outcome is a different thing that could disrupt an entire past of like 5 years and an entire future of how much I'm willing to not have it be affected. And so if you're going from a vehicle of a police squad, where we saw some earlier, he doesn't want it, there he goes. And so us on the other end, the receiving of the FBI using Stingray, the receiving of the, I just snorted. I heard someone snorting earlier, so I was probably trying to compensate it because I'm trying to bring up logic for an illogical thing that just happened. Where were we? The Stingray, the receiving end. The receiving end of a swamp, what a swamp was. I was trying to argue that it's being more elusive over the land, such as people are more indicative of trolls. So in a swamp, there's trolls, ostensibly, and those two things are like under a bridge is a troll, and swamp is under a bridge to infiltrate trolls ostensibly. The reason for a swamp is that even people who aren't trolls are being looked at as pests, from the pests at that standpoint, where they don't care if it's a human or a troll. They're looking for someone who is vulnerable. And so vulnerable people, they can, for a pest call, need to achieve victory, which would be eradicating the human species so that they could feast upon their corpse and set larvae within their body to hatch new species of their own. The power of reading is uncontested when the maximum aptitude is at fatality levels. Accidents would occur left and right, surmounting in power grabs all around. Thank God humans don't have the ability of sorcery, because anytime there would be an agitation, that person would accidentally get messed up by like a giant laser beam. And then if there's another a-hole messing up people, well then now I'm in contention with him and we would have to do a Mortal Kombat. I was watching TV and it was blanking out because it had some fuzz on it and it was doing some really interesting polarization. Mainly the whole screen would like blink really quick, and I thought, boy, all these different attributes of polarizations could happen all just in the really quick flash, and it would be so quick that you wouldn't even know. It'd be like disjointing from top to bottom, and you would see like a different feed coming in. And you would see like granules of like shapes that were forming almost like Pez. If you would take a whole bunch of Pez and put them on a paint shaker table, you know, at Home Depot. Even if they don't do that, they could just use the kamikaze scenario where they have so many and they're in their packs and they just attack, almost like what they did in the city where there's in New York. There would be a lady walking down the street and rats jumped out and ate her, and then more climbed up on her and started eating her, and then more and more came, more that she shrieked, and luckily someone came and got them all off her before they all knocked her down. The next day the eradicator would come and eradicate all of them, and this is why the rats don't come and jump on people anymore, because the eradicator took trash bags full of rats out the very next day, and they knew that that wasn't a good way to survive with their species. It's like stingray and operations like these, it gives you an edge to know what it is, given that the fact that detective and policeman didn't even know what it was, and I had to inform them of it. And then I got into a conversation about different radio frequencies, like what cockroaches read, and then the evolving of a colony of pests, flies. They all read people. I think the ones who are most vulnerable, and the horseflies, they pass on the message. When people are like flapping at them, they're looking at the human like a kamikaze. Where can they get into and infiltrate? The flapping of the arms will make them want to go more. Almost like a knot. The more that you pull on either end, will tighten more and more. The more that you flail, the more and more that the horsefly will try and shoot the gap. The stingray operation is very much like how the immune system works. When you include the police vehicles, if the police vehicles were in the future a lot faster and like better, they could get to the crime scene ostensibly, shortening the residual latency, the estimated disproportion, where the estimation would become more and more variant, meaning less and less prominent. So the stingray, the quicker the police can get to the scene, would be more than likely to find the target that they're trying to achieve. I don't know if you understood anything I said, but I was trying to keep quiet, because in a library you're supposed to keep quiet even though if the librarians are talking. They have a valence of acceptance among their own rules for themselves. One thing I was trying to iterate was stingray, where my hat's going to fly off because the wind is strong and my hair is frail. even if you wash your hair like really well, if it's long, it's gonna have like a certain